You can't constantly be saying, like people were in Trump 1 or even the Biden administration, like, well, we got to get back to norms. We got to get back to the way things were. It's not. Like, things are being fundamentally broken and changed around us. And yes, Democrats and liberals and pretty much everybody else want somebody who will fight back. Hey, Jamal, good to be back with you. We haven't talked in a couple of days. This is our weekly Trailblaze session to catch up on all of the things. And Gavin Newsom's been in the news quite a bit. I've been wanting to get your take on it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what Gavin Newsom is up to. You watch his Twitter feed, for those who aren't following it. You go to the California governor Twitter feed, you go to Gavin Newsom's personal Twitter feed, his campaign Twitter feed, and he has turned into a Democratic Trump, which some might say is not really where we want to be in America, but others might say you got to give as good as you get. And we've been getting it for a long time. And now Gavin Newsom is trying to give some back.
I get that, right? Like the idea that accept the turf that you're playing on. You can't constantly be saying, like people were in Trump 1 or even the Biden administration, like, well, we got to get back to norms. We got to get back to the way things were. It's not. Like things are being fundamentally broken and changed around us. And yes, Democrats and liberals and pretty much everybody else want somebody who will fight back against all of the things they think are wrong and anxiety and, you know, whether it's a Twitter feed back and forth, I'm not convinced. I think there is a dunking culture online that does actually attract a lot of younger folks who are like, oh, this is a new form of like a prize fight that I'm watching, except it's a political version. Oh, yeah, that line. I get that part of it, but I don't see the substance meeting the moment, if that makes sense, right? It's not just about how sharp and funny you can be. How are you thinking about things differently? Like Gavin Newsom's been around for a minute. And yes, he's had experience governing California, but what are you doing to set yourself apart from the same stuff we've always heard from liberal Democrats?
So, yes, on one part, I would say, sure, let's have some substance. But, you know, Democrats tend to be a little substance heavy, right? We sometimes want to have policy exchanges and talk about the right thing to do. And I just like it because, listen, I don't know what it means for 2028. Let me just start there. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Gavin Newsom is a legitimate candidate for 2028. I don't know if he's actually putting it together. I'm sure he is. But here's what I do know. Gavin Newsom is capturing the hearts and minds of the Democratic voter out there. I think people are looking at this and saying, somebody, finally, somebody is fighting. They are just getting in the game. They're calling it like they see it. They're calling bullshit. They're saying what they think. And I think that Gavin is really making people respond to that. Now, he's got to be able to hold that up. He's got to have some policy behind it at some point. People are going to want to know, okay, now we're paying attention. Because remember, half the game here is, look at me, look at me. Politics has always been about that. Now people are looking at you. What do you have to say? That is going to be the test that I think goes to your point about the substance.
Yeah. So I hear you about, you know, not being wonky and I get that because actually usually like you're the ones like, oh, you know, you have to be something to fight for. And I'm like, but it's all about how you talk to and connect with people. So
I know. Are we switching? Is this our Freaky Friday?
No, there. I am still there when I talk about substance. I don't mean policy declarations. Yeah. I don't need 10-point plans. I guess and it may just be a generational difference too. Mm-hmm. I don't hear Gavin Newsom telling me in a way that Zoran Mamdani is telling people how he's different, how he is breaking away from all the stuff that everybody thinks has been broken in the past, right? It's this whole idea that you hear among younger voters and that I frankly totally agree with. The people who got us here are not going to be the people who get us out of it.
Yeah.
Like I am thoroughly convinced about that now. Does that pose a challenge to the Democratic Party? Of course it does. But like figure it out. I appreciate the bring a knife to knife fight. Absolutely do. And I want to also mention that Gavin Newsom did that with redistricting. Yeah. Right? He wasn't doing
So that's substance. This is substance, right? This is a substantive thing.
Right. Like people are like, oh my God, you know, you've never had state redistricting being about responding to another state. Well, guess what? Redistricting and how a congressional map looks in your state is ultimately about the federal situation. What does the federal situation look like? Who controls Congress? And if we're already accepting that we have this bonkers system, by the way, bonkers that you and I could live across the street from each other and be in totally different congressional districts. Yeah. Right. That the city of Nashville, Tennessee has been divided into 4 separate districts specifically so that they would break up the majority minority population there and change who goes to Congress on their behalf.
Yeah. And
So
AI is only going to make this worse because it's going to
if you
make you,
accept that
not only will
reality,
you do it by like a block, you'll be able to do it by which house, right? Like we could live next door to each other and we could be in different congressional districts.
so if you accept that that is okay, that that is where we're at, and that is okay, that is how we come up with who goes to Congress, fine. Why not then make it about somebody who has statewide influence trying to influence the broader federal picture? So I respect and appreciate, again, bringing the knife to the knife fight. The Republicans figured out how to work the system. Gavin Newsom is doing the same thing on behalf of the Democratic Party. It also helps him with his, any presidential ambition. So that I can respect. Again, same person, part of the system and came up in the system and, all of the things that it's just like, oh,
I know.
okay.
See, this is where you and I differ. This is where you and I differ.
I think it's a generational thing.
Because you think that because you're new, I'm not going to say what you think because you think what you think. I don't want to convey.
Why don't you tell me what I think?
I don't want people to take away. In my estimation, new does not necessarily mean different. So you can get a bunch of new people who think like the old people.
Yeah.
And you might get a bunch of old people who think new and differently, right? Bernie's an older guy, but he's thinking new and different. So I don't know that people who were here before are necessarily crossed out.
I'm glad you're helping me refine the statement because I think it's a generational, it's not age of the person that is running for office. It's the generational understanding of the voter. Right. So and I think that it's the younger generation, which is going to be the majority of the population. It's already the majority. 50 and younger is now the majority of the voting population. It's not 55 plus. So it's not seniors are dominant on everything. So, right. That age is thinking in a more Bernie, more the system is broken. We don't trust either party. Right. So if you are then coming up very much from that party structure and apparatus, I think that to that group reeks of more of the same.
Yeah, yeah.
So the generation of voter, not necessarily like to your point. Yeah, Bernie ain't young.
Yeah. So okay. So we're closer together, but I do think so. One thing Gavin Newsom is doing is he's building his following, right? So I think I saw a number yesterday. He's got over 400,000 followers on some of these accounts, where before he was like in the 200s or something like that. So, right. So he's getting people to pay attention. So again, politics has always had a certain amount of theater to it. You do a debate, you have a chicken costume show up at your opponent's, rally, a guy in a chicken suit, so there's always been this element of theater about it. And I think what Gavin Newsom is doing is he's doing the theater part right now. So he's getting everybody to pay attention to him. And you're right. He's going to have to have something to say that's going to convey something that's new and different. And we'll see what that is. What I like about Mamdani is like he, in the middle of a campaign, because this campaign was imminent, right? He wasn't like 2 years out. He was like months out. And so his campaign was imminent. So he goes and jumps in the water in freezing cold water to talk about freezing rents. Right. It's all there. So I like if you think about this as a spectrum, on one side of the spectrum, you kind of have nameless congressional Democrat from nameless state, right? Who's like I sent a strongly worded letter to the Secretary of Homeland.
We're not going to say who this nameless Democrat from a major city, like a state Democrat is, right?
I'm not going to say it. You can say
you're not going to say it. We're not going to say it.
So you have that on one end of the poll, and on the other end of the poll, you have Mamdani, and you have Gavin Newsom, who I think are inhabiting the same quadrant of the graph. We're going to do this in the math.
So they're in that quadrant of we're showing up, we're being interesting, we're saying things, we're going to fight.
Yes.
That's what they have in common.
Yes. Now, where you are in that quadrant, obviously is going to be different. But what I want to do is get everybody moving in that direction, moving toward the way they're communicating. That's what
I get the way they're presenting. Now, my challenge, and this is where I think then the distinction is between the two, is authenticity.
You think a French Laundry, wealthy San Francisco Democrat is not authentically,
I think he looks
dropping F-bombs on Twitter?
Well, actually, probably is authentically dropping F-bombs. I don't think he's authentically. I think his authentic space is standing behind a podium with a bunch of people behind him and the big signs, and it's like this is what presidential and leadership and power looks like. He's totally believable in that setting.
Yeah,
right?
Although I will say this about Gavin Newsom.
Huh?
I'll say this
He's
about
not
Gavin
that
Newsom.
guy who's going to sit there on the subway and be like, hey, here's my subway metro card. Let's have a conversation. And like, I totally dig and get that you get this because you do this. You ride the subway all the time. Right. So like
Yeah,
that
that's true. Oh,
authentic,
sure.
right? Like that authentic again, connection to how people live their lives every day.
But it's not what class you fight for, what class you're in. It's what class you fight for, right? A lot of wealthy people can fight for people. Look, Bernie Sanders is not a poor guy. Like do the math on Bernie, right? Bernie is like one of the wealthiest senators that is out there.
Right.
I will say this.
Again,
I will say this about Gavin though. Gavin made his money in part like owning bars, right? He owned bars and like so he has been with quote the people in like in some ways. But I do think he is part of an elite establishment. Absolutely. Yes. You can't take that away from him. But so was John Kennedy, right? So was like there are lots of really kind of wealthy people.
I would say this. I don't want John Kennedy today. I would absolutely not want John Kennedy today. No.
Yeah, but wealthy people fought for working class people. That's always happened in the history of the world. But the question is there a path for working class people to fight for themselves? And as long as there's a path for that, I'm for it.
When the wealthy people are locking out everybody else from participating in the system, that's the fundamental problem here. Like Bernie may be wealthy and have that as well, but Bernie it did not even try to build that reputation of I go to fancy restaurants and these are the people I hang out with. You know, like that. He's like, okay, like you don't need to know about my money if I got it, right? There is that person who they came up in the class structure. They went from, somewhere lower class and they got upper class, and congratulations, good on you. You got the American dream. But once you have been living there and that's what you've been presenting and that's your impression to the country and the world, it is very hard to pull back and then be like, oh yeah, but by the way, don't you remember that that's actually really where I came from?
Yeah.
Like Jenny from the block doesn't happen all that often.
I don't know.
Politics.
I don't know. I think that
and that's my challenge. I challenge
the history of the world.
Like what is he? Is he that guy who takes off the suit jacket and then rolls up his sleeves and goes to a diner? Because we got plenty of those.
Westmore is a wealthy guy. Westmore is, he's a Baltimore guy. He's served in the military. He did a bunch of things early in his career. He also worked on Wall Street, right? And he made a bunch of money, and now he's the governor of a state. But he has a new and fresh and different kind of approach, and he's out here trying to do and think things, think about things
and
differently.
Fresh. There is also, right, he's not part of the elite previous establishment of kingmakers and rainmakers.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he isn't.
I mean, Gavin Newsom is. That's what, like now we're contrasting. Okay, if we're not going to contrast with Mamdani, we're now contrasting Newsom to Westmore.
Yeah.
Totally different sense of authenticity between the two.
Absolutely. And trust me, I do not want to be in the Gavin Newsom defense club, right? Because I feel like I'm being pushed into that corner.
Putting me in that corner.
I don't want to be in that corner. I'm just saying the way he's doing things is what I like. I like the way he's because I'm not in the Mamdani corner either. I just like the way he's doing things. I think is new and different, and I like it. And I want more people to learn those lessons. And we saw a story today. I just want to bring this up before we move on. Mm-hmm. We saw a story today from yesterday from the New York Times about voter registration and the number of young people and other people who are the Democratic voter registration numbers are going down. The Republican numbers have been going up since 2019. Mm-hmm. And even among young people under 30, we're seeing more of them register as Republicans than we've seen.
Or independent.
Or independent.
It's like, yes, more are registering Republican than Democrat.
Yes.
Far more are not party affiliated.
Yeah. So Democrats are definitely losing to independents. People don't want to identify as being Democrat. So we do have to think about what it is Democrats, and maybe it's not Democrats, but what it is progressives, what is people who are on the left side of the ledger are offering America that make them say, I reject this MAGA foolishness.
Yeah. I am, by the way, very okay with the majority of the country being registered independent. It just means, though, the problem, and this is the fundamental problem of our system of primaries, then, the party pays for the primary, the party runs it. You should be a part of the party to vote in it, right? Like that's what the deal is. But then that leads people who will not, majority of the people then do not get to choose their final two contenders. Yeah, I'm curious about this person and that person. I want to see how those two pair up. That's what the party structure gives it. And that's where I struggle because I totally...
Hey, those are the breaks. Those are the breaks. There's no reason you
Yeah.
should let somebody who is not a member of your family come in and decide what your family's going to eat for dinner.
But
Come in
what I
and
would
decide
say
how
is
you're going to
that
decorate your house, right?
that
Why would you do
assumption,
that?
right? And that within that, the assumption though, that that's the only way it can be. Now, while it is that way, yes, being registered independent, I agree. There's so many things I agree with in independent thinking, but you are losing the chance then to help select one party's. You are losing the chance to select one party's person, and that's where you get the suddenly general public's like, these two candidates are so extreme. How did it become my choice? Like, how is this what I'm stuck with? That's how you're stuck with it because
Well,
you didn't sign up for a party and shape that system. Like,
yeah,
until
yeah.
that gets changed, and there's some days, many days, most days, where I'm like, that's the only reason I'm still a Democrat, right? Like, I get to help choose and shape that because I picked a party. Like, otherwise, I really do think it's, people have lost their way, but no
Well,
third parties rising up like that.
well, we are going to have to see how people figure it out next week on Trailblaze.
All right, Jamal, thank you.
Good to talk to you.
Bye.